fight a modern war, tremendous amounts of materiel and supplies are needed. One of the reasons for our victory over the Germans and the Japanese was our ability to produce more materiel and supplies, produce it faster, and transport it to the place where it was needed when it was needed. Transportation of troops, equipment, and supplies has become one of the most important military operations in a modern war. Holds and the lives of thousands of men depend on the smooth and well-regulated movement of this traffic. On the basis of the overall needs of the campaign and the advice of his general staff, the commander determines the priority of the movements of troops and supplies in his area. Based on these priorities, the Transportation Corps specifies in detail what is to be moved, the routes to be used, the time each movement will take place, and whether the movement shall be by water, rail, air, or motor vehicle. This function is called movement control. In the case of movements on roads, the function of routing, scheduling, and directing the movement is termed highway traffic regulation. The transportation officer and the provost marshal work in close cooperation. The military police, operating under the provost marshal, enforce traffic regulations so that priorities and schedules can be maintained. This job is called traffic control. Because a modern army must use a tremendous number of vehicles, the military policeman has become a key man. Wherever the American armies went during World War II, from the Burma Road to the mountains of Italy, from the beaches of Normandy to the road net of Hitler's Third Reich, everywhere the military policeman was directing the traffic that led to victory. In the zone of the interior and in the communication zone, the purpose of traffic control is to keep traffic moving safely and on schedule. In combat areas, the primary consideration is to keep traffic moving. There must be no delay in the movement of troops and supplies. The MP is concerned with the movements of both individual vehicles and convoys in a military zone. Other factors bearing heavily on the regulation of military traffic are enemy interference, movement to blackout conditions, concentrations of large numbers of vehicles in small areas, and the constantly changing political situation. To control the large volume of military vehicular traffic, several techniques have been developed. One of these techniques is point control of traffic. Point control can best be illustrated as a control exercised over traffic intersections. There are many types of intersections, but the basic principle of point control is the same at all of them. This basic principle is simply to separate conflicting streams of traffic so that each stream is allotted its proper share of time and space in which to pass through the intersection without interruption. By regularly changing the flow of traffic through the intersection, accidents and congestion are prevented. A smooth traffic flow is essential to the maintenance of priorities and schedules. When the traffic moves in the east-west direction, the traffic in the north-south direction has been stopped momentarily. This moving traffic in the east-west direction is one phase of the traffic flow through the intersection. A phase of traffic is the normal and uninterrupted flow of traffic in one direction, in this case, the east-west direction. When it is necessary to change the flow of traffic to move other vehicles past this point in a different direction, a new phase has been introduced, the north-south phase. When the traffic flow in the north-south direction is stopped again, we have completed a cycle of phases or a cycle of traffic. We have moved both the north-south and the east-west traffic through the intersection. In other words, a cycle of traffic is the number of phases necessary to move all streams of traffic past a given point. In this particular case, the situation is a simple one. There are no left-hand turns to interfere with the oncoming traffic. Two phases of traffic, one in the east-west direction and one in the north-south direction, have made a cycle. However, when it is necessary to stop the traffic in order to let vehicles make left-hand turns from both the north-south and the east-west direction, then two new phases have been introduced, in addition to the two phases we had before, namely, the left-hand turns in the east-west direction and the left-hand turns in the north-south direction. The MP should not allow left-hand turns if they are detrimental to the overall movement of traffic. The cycle in our illustration now consists of not two, but four phases. Two phases of through traffic and two of left-hand turns. Wherever possible, left-hand turns should be infiltrated through the open spaces in the through traffic. Intersection control is not difficult. It is mainly a matter of experience and common sense. Because conditions vary too greatly between different intersections, and because traffic does not approach an intersection uniformly, no ironclad rule can be given as to the time length each phase should run. The time length of a phase varies with the conditions at any particular time and location. A phase normally continues for about 25 or 30 seconds. Turning phases are shorter than through movement phases. The MP should be careful not to make the phases either too short or too long. If one phase is allowed to run too long, it may cause traffic that has been stopped to back up to such an extent that it interferes with traffic at nearby intersections. Too long a cycle will exhaust the driver's patience and waste both time and gas. If the MP makes the phases too short and changes them too often, he's wasting a lot of time. Too short a cycle of phases is inefficient. When traffic consists of individual vehicles rather than column or convoy movements, the MP functions much in the same manner as a civilian traffic policeman. He changes the streams of traffic in accordance with sound methods of intersection traffic control. He operates almost like a traffic light. There is one important difference, however. The MP can use his judgment whenever necessary. The military policeman can and must make decisions continuously in accordance with the current condition of the traffic. For instance, an alert MP does not change the flow of traffic just before a heavy and cumbersome vehicle approaches the control point. Such a vehicle should be allowed to proceed through the intersection without interference. If it was stopped, the time required to start it again would cause a delay. When an MP takes his post at an intersection, he must pick the place from which he can best perform his duties. Normally, the position in the center of the intersection will satisfy this requirement. The MP should be able to move around if necessary, so he can get out of the way of turning vehicles. He and the approaching traffic must be visible to each other. His hand signals must not leave any doubts in the driver's mind as to their meaning. At a normal four-way intersection, the military policeman faces one stream of stopped traffic, and the moving traffic flows towards his right and left. A similar position is taken at other types of intersections. The MP should not forget about the traffic approaching his position from the rear. It is dangerous to assume that this traffic will stop of its own accord. He should be alert and give it a clear stop signal. This MP is not only in the wrong place in the intersection, but he does not pay any attention to the traffic from his rear. Phew, that was a close one. This MP is an obstruction to the traffic. It is only too short a jump from being an obstruction to being a casualty. The MP must be watchful of drivers who disregard his hand signals. This disregard is not always intentional, But whatever the reason, disregard for hand signals will cause congestion or accidents and must not be tolerated. Traffic at an intersection can be over-regulated. That is just as bad as no regulation at all. Elmer here is putting on a great show and is succeeding beautifully in confusing the drivers. The military policeman on duty at an intersection must determine what vehicles have right-of-way. Right-of-way is the privilege of the immediate use of the road. Right-of-way should not be confused with priority. Priority is a command function, and Traffic Regulation Headquarters determines who will be given priority. The MP exercising intersection control is given a priority list and must enforce it rigidly. He must let columns or vehicles with the highest priority proceed through the intersection with right-of-way over all other traffic. In situations not covered by orders, military police base their decisions upon existing traffic requirements and general right-of-way rules. In combat areas, traffic moving to the front generally has right-of-way over traffic moving to the rear. Loaded vehicles normally have right-of-way over empty vehicles. Fast-moving convoys take less time to move past the control point and should therefore be given right-of-way over slower-moving columns. A short march unit is given right-of-way over a longer one. Ordinarily, the vehicle first to reach the intersection has right-of-way. If both reach the intersection at the same time, the vehicle on the right has right-of-way. Convoy units are not broken up, even though they may not have a priority. The only exception to this would be the approach of an emergency vehicle, such as that of an emergency messenger or a senior commander. In such a case, the military policeman should act immediately. All other traffic approaching the intersection is stopped, and the path is cleared for the emergency vehicle. When the emergency vehicle is passed, the MP should make sure that no other vehicle is following the first before letting normal traffic resume its movement. If scheduled convoys are late in arriving, they should be hurried along. If they are ahead of schedule, they should be slowed down in order to conform as closely as possible to the prescribed schedule. Scheduled movements past the post should be checked against the schedule list and their progress reported. Due to unforeseen circumstances or inexperience on the part of the man regulating traffic, a jam or congestion may occur at an intersection. If that happens, the first rule is, don't get excited. The MP should order all drivers to stay where they are. By getting an overall picture of the situation, he can usually spot the key vehicle or vehicles that caused the jam. Rather than try to clear the jam by working on the fringes of the congestion, the MP should always go after the key vehicle first. If a jam like this existed in a combat zone for any length of time, serious consequences might result. Road intersections are prime targets for enemy artillery and aircraft. To get the snarl unraveled, it is sometimes necessary to order the driver of a vehicle to proceed in a different direction from that in which he wants to go. An important military police responsibility is to furnish route and location information. When seeking information from the MP, the vehicle must not obstruct other traffic. In many cases, the driver's question can be answered in a second or two. If not, the driver should be asked to move his vehicle over to the side of the road. When the MP has a break in the traffic, he can go over to the waiting car and give the information. In wartime, such information should only be given after the information seeker has properly identified himself. For security reasons, this rule must be strictly enforced. Should the MP be unable to answer the questions, he should never guess at the answer, but should refer the information seeker to someone who does know. The control of traffic at an intersection under normal night driving conditions is approximately the same as during daylight hours. because of reduced visibility, the military policeman should, however, be so equipped that the drivers of vehicles approaching his post can easily see him. He should wear a white helmet and white leggings. When the headlights of vehicles are in use, it is not necessary to turn on the light in the baton. The procedure during blackout conditions is about the same as during normal night driving. The baton is lighted when used for signaling during a blackout. During blackout movements, drivers have a tendency to approach a turning point at too great a rate of speed. The patrolman should be on the alert and give the driver a signal in time for him to slow down. When the MP feels that the driver understands the signal, he can give him the signal for the proper turn. If a baton is not available, an ordinary flashlight can be used. In order not to blind the drivers with the flashlight, a piece of paper or thin cotton cloth should be stretched over the lens. This will also reduce the distance from which the light can be seen. A traffic defile is a section of road which restricts the normal movement of vehicles. Frequently, one-way traffic is necessary. There are many types of defiles. Some are caused by enemy shelling or bombardment. Some are caused by rain, floods, or excessive use of poor roads by heavy trucks. Other types of defiles may be narrow bridges, blown-out bridges, mountain passes, fords, or streams, or towns with narrow streets. To control traffic at any one-way defile, 2 MPs are needed, one at each end of the defile. The end of the defile from which the vehicles will first enter is decided beforehand, and the MP at this end starts the first vehicles through. When the MP decides that enough vehicles have entered for the time being, he interrupts the traffic and signals the MP at the other end to that effect. When the last vehicle of this group has passed through the entire length of the defile, and the defile is clear, the MP at the other end starts sending through a similar group of vehicles in the opposite direction. Several types of signals can be used. If the MPs at the ends of the defile can see each other, hand signals are usually sufficient. When the MPs cannot see each other, the flag system, field telephone, or radio communication can be used. The flag system is the simplest and most practical. When the last vehicle of a group starts through the defile, the MP at that end gives the driver a flag to carry through to the other end. Arriving at the other end, the driver hands the flag to the MP stationed there. The MP then knows that the defile is clear of traffic. He starts a group through from his end of the defile. He gives the flag to the driver of the last vehicle, and the process is repeated. To make certain that breakdowns do not obstruct traffic through the defile, a wrecker and crew may be stationed within or near the defile. Should a vehicle break down, the wrecker can clear it out of the way. Where telephone or radio is used between the 2 MPs at the ends of the defile, the last vehicle is identified by its type and the last 3 numbers of its War Department registration number. If neither flag, telephone, or radio is available, the last vehicle may be sent through with a chalk mark on its bumper. Sometimes it is necessary to locate dispersion areas near the defile. If a high-priority convoy is routed through the defile, other traffic must be sidetracked. On the other hand, vehicles must not be allowed to pile up at either end of the defile while the convoy goes through. The waiting vehicles are therefore dispersed in an area provided for that purpose until it is their turn to move again through the defile. Traffic accidents occurring in a combat zone may be regarded as combat casualties rather than as accidents in the ordinary sense. Urgency of the tactical situation usually prevents a full investigation and report. Under such conditions, it is often necessary to push disabled vehicles off the road immediately after an accident in order to prevent delay to military traffic. Maintenance crews will tow the vehicle later to a depot for repairs. In other areas, a traffic accident also obstructs the roadway and causes a form of defile. Traffic is moved past the accident as through any other type of defile. Since the defile in this case is relatively short, it is often sufficient to post signs, flags, or flares about 100 yards on either side of the accident to warn approaching drivers. If anyone has been injured, first aid must be given promptly and arrangements made for the evacuation of the injured. The disabled vehicle should be moved from the roadway as soon as possible and a report on the accident made by the military police. At a beachhead, military police land soon after the assault troops. They direct vehicles across the beach to the de-waterproofing areas, dumps, and supply transfer points. The MP's main job here is to prevent congestion and get the vehicles on their way. The MP should be familiar with all vehicle markings. A unit guide is often posted with the traffic MP. The unit guide does not control traffic. He only guides vehicles to their destinations. Around supply dumps, strict control of traffic must be maintained. Within such areas, one-way traffic is customary. Nevertheless, drivers will at times move in the wrong direction. In the zone of the interior, such a violation is not too serious. But in a combat area, any congestion of traffic will not only interfere with scheduled movements of troops and supplies, it will invite enemy bombardment or strafing. Once the basic principle of point control of traffic is understood, the actual operation of the control becomes largely a matter of experience, good judgment, and common sense. The basic principle is to separate conflicting streams of traffic in such a way that each stream is allotted its proper share of time and space in which to pass through an intersection, defile, or congested area. Because there are many different types of intersections and points of conflict, control must be adapted to fit all of them. A traffic light cannot think. An MP must. A good traffic control man must use common sense and be both physically and mentally alert. His bearing and conduct should be beyond reproach. The military policeman must display confidence and self-control, act without hesitation, and treat all persons fairly and impartially. Wherever the military policeman is working, the purpose of military traffic control is to keep traffic moving safely and without delay.